Dave, thanks for doing this and for teaching me how to use Thunkable, because I don't know how to do it. I've struggled a little bit and I'm lost. And I wanted to build an app that could help you put yourself in the shoes of another person, and maybe through simple pictures and imagery, you're put into a scenario where you feel something. You're basically seeing the other person's point of view.
Let me just talk about a couple things. One thing I find with my students is they get lost in the details, and I'll even ask my students, how can we get this project done? And a lot of times it's just not getting started. So what I tell them over and over is, perfect is the enemy of good, and and also get something created. Ignore details, jot them down somewhere, right? And then just think iteratively. So build a little something, add to it. And the flip side of this is you want to make sure you have an overall design and vision, right? But the hard part about, I think, building software is you got to go switch back and forth from this big picture thinking, and then get down into some detail, and then go back and forth between those two completely different ways of thinking. So anyway, in terms of actually making something and building something, one thing is kind of determining the screens you need. And once again, here, you can get lost in trying to sketch out 14 screens for your app. And what I encourage people is think of your number one screen. What is it? And start with that. Right? What's the number, the most important screen, and try to build that first. Just a small thing, with screens is a lot of times, when you start developing, when you actually start coding, you say, oh, I have this screen, I'm going to go to the next screen, and you say, I need these 10 screens. But really in the code, it's going to be one screen, but the content changes. You'll have different screens for, like, if you have screens that are of a different layout, right? But in terms of in the code, like for the quiz app example, or even for your empathy app, if you're going to go through a series of different experiences, it might actually be one screen, but the content changes. So the picture changes, and the question you're going to ask the user is going to change. And so you're going to show that on one screen, and then just kind of put different data into it on each successive as the user clicks next, right? The other thing is, building a prototype with kind of prototypical or fake data, right? So you don't start out thinking, well, the users are going to enter some stuff, and I'm going to get that data that they enter, and then I'm going to show that data. That's what you want in the end. But early on, think about just having fake data, and then you can add the interactive part and the kind of bringing data in for real part later. When you're trying to build an app, especially when you're learning how to code, the really hard part's going to be the interactive part, the behavior part, right? So what I try to encourage students is, look, when you're at home and you love to do the design part, you can do that on your own. But as you're trying to learn and actually code the app, don't forget about the details of the design, and think more about just getting something up there, and then you can kind of fix it later. And then kind of this last thing on the slide is, and this is conceptually kind of difficult, but you're going to use a variable. So your data, like even all your images and maybe all your questions for the empathy app, those are going to be in a separate place as a variable, and you're going to show those on your screen. All right. So it's just kind of keeping, in your mind, think of kind of, in memory data, kind of hidden data, and then the data that shows up in the app.
And these are very common mistakes that, I would make, right? So very helpful.
Okay, cool.